he deserves the results that he's getting, and of course now he's one of the greatest of all times. Definitely in the top four, together with Schumacher, Senna, Fangio. So yeah, it's unbelievable, and huge respect.
So Nico, hi, nice to meet you. Thank you very much to accept my interview.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
My first question is why did you decide to invest your time and your money in green technology?
I made a commitment when I retired from my Formula One career that as an entrepreneur, I would dedicate a lot of time in doing good for others, and really accelerating positive change for our planet and for our society. And green technologies is just a fascinating space. There's so much going on, so much innovation. So I really love it. And also, of course, mobility. Mobility is my home. I'm a mobility world champion. And also in mobility, it's so much happening, going to electric, going to autonomous. So I really enjoy it, and I'm very passionate about this.
For sure, environment is the next big issue for our world. But do you think environment is the next big issue to motorsport?
So, well, we know that the climate change is one of the, or if not the biggest threat facing us as a society and our planet in the next decades. And so every sector, every industry has to play its role. And that's why we are talking now here. And that's why we're talking here today about SunReef, pioneering the sustainable luxury yachting sector, and also motorsports. Racing has to do its part. And we're seeing more and more categories going electric. I myself also just created a team in the new electric racing championship called Extreme E, also with SunReef's support. SunReef and Francis Lapp is a big fan of racing, so he's supporting me on this project, which is also fantastic. And I'm very excited. It's called Rosberg Extreme Racing. And we're going to be racing also in some of the most threatened environments of our planet. So we're going to go in the desert where there's desertification and drought happening in Senegal, for example. We're going to race in the Amazon where there's deforestation happening. We're going to race in Greenland where the glaciers are melting. So we really want to raise awareness to the threat that we're facing as a planet.
And does it difficult to sensibilize some teams and some motor teams to come to your race?
Yes, of course, because motor racing as a basis is full of petrol heads who love the engine, the petrol, the noise. And so it takes a bit of time to get them to used to and to get them to appreciate electric mobility. But I think my father is a very good example. When I first invested into Formula E in the early days, my father was like, what the hell, what are you doing? You're wasting your money. This is a joke. And now he is the biggest fan and he watches every single Formula E race, you know, so it just takes a bit of time, but the transition is happening very, very quickly, I think, at the moment.
What's the situation now of Formula E? The championship, the organization, how is going up?
So Formula E, I'm very, very proud to have invested into Formula E very early because it's now become a great success. I mean, it's a global player and it's worth almost a billion euros now in their valuation. The fan base is growing. And the most exciting thing as well is how the manufacturers have embraced the sport to develop their technologies, which then end up in their road cars in 2-3 years down the road. And it's the most incredible race-to-road transfer of technology ever in motorsports, in Formula E. And so from a German perspective, we see Mercedes fighting against Porsche, fighting against Audi, fighting against BMW. It's all the premium manufacturers fighting against each other, which is very rare. And it just adds to the fascination of the sport. And also, it's a different concept because here you're going to the people, into the cities. All races are in downtown cities. It's silent, so you see families coming there with their babies, with their kids, because there's no noise, it's clean, so there's a lot of benefits, and it has its own appeal, but also it's not in direct competition with Formula One. It's two different value propositions, and Formula One, of course, will always remain the king of motorsports.
And you're right, because this is exactly the situation with me and my son in Paris. I take him to show a Formula E in the city, and it was really, really exciting and funny.
Yeah, fantastic. And that's the benefit of Formula E, because Formula One would have been much more difficult for you to go visit a race because it's then very far away in the south of France in Le Castellet. But Formula E is a day out with your family to experience some nice racing and the future of mobility, electric, high performance. It's interesting. So that's lovely.
I think, you know, with the Formula One from the 80s, we can find some link with the regular car and the development of the regular car. And I think with the Formula E now, we can see the same link for the development of the new and the future car. That's it the thing?
Yes, you're right. So Formula One has always played a role in helping us develop our road cars for the future. You were mentioning the 80s. So there Formula One was pioneering the turbo engine, which ended up in all of our road cars and which today is still in the road cars as an incredibly efficient solution. And then Formula E is doing the same. And now what I'm most excited about is Extreme E, which is where I've done my racing team, which is founded by the founder of Formula E. So it's his new baby. And this is going to be the most sustainable motorsports ever. It's really, we're racing for our planet. We will be racing in the locations, and we will be joining in forces with the locals also to support them locally and support their projects to make sure that we leave each location in a better state than when we arrive.
With which kind of race we can compare Extreme E race?
So Extreme E is Rally Dakar meets the Blue Planet.
Nice concept. No, it's good.
This is also, I think, it's an opportunity for very appealing content, because our followers are going to be able to experience not only the racing, which is going to be exciting, wheel-to-wheel battles, short distance circuits, but also to experience really nature and the environmental issues that are happening there and becoming educated about them. So it's really crossing these two topics together, which is so fascinating about Extreme E. And that's also why SunReef, of course, has joined me to support this project of my team, because the oceans will also play a big role in this. The taking care of the oceans, the threat of plastic to our oceans. And this is where, together with SunReef, we're really going to pursue and support initiatives.
You know, in our world now, it's really important to have some ambassadors who talk about some issues. For example, do you think you can get some famous driver? Maybe you will participate to the Extreme E. Do you think you need to have some ambassadors to talk about it?
Well, from a French perspective, already you have Sébastien Ogier being an ambassador. Sébastien Loeb is looking at it. And otherwise, in terms of big names, I mean, of course, I'm involved from a Formula One world, and also Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton has also created a team, which is great because we are renewing our battle as well, but not as drivers, as team owners. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. And it's an opportunity that we use our battle for raising awareness for the good cause, you know, and that's amazing that we can do that.
So you will be linked all your life with Lewis.
No, but I mean, here I really like that he's also joining me on my path of sustainability. You know, that he's also taking this direction. It's fantastic because, of course, he has a lot of influence as well.
Last questions about the Formula E. Is it possible to exist with the Formula One? Because sometimes we think Formula One is really, really big and it's really difficult to exist with the Formula One.
Absolutely, they're not in conflict, and we have seen that. Formula One is the king of motorsports, is the gladiators, the high performance, and Formula E is family friendly, and it's the technology of the future. And it's also a lot of gamification, and in that family is also Extreme E now. Extreme E is just taking the electric mobility racing off-road into some extreme locations. So it's a whole family of electric mobility racing, which is growing there, and it's not in competition with Formula One. Both have their role. And also Formula One, though, it's very important to say, is doing much more to make sure that it's motorsport for good, because that's the role of motorsport. Motorsport has to exist for doing good for society more and more in the future. And for Formula One, one of the greatest opportunities there is with synthetic fuels, because combustion engines will always still be a big part of mobility for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So if Formula One can pioneer the development of synthetic fuels, which can be beneficial to the wider society, maybe on a global scale, and maybe available for a decent price, and synthetic fuels are CO2 neutral. So it would be a huge step for making combustion engines more environmentally friendly. And that's the kind of role that I would love Formula One to play.
You decided 4 years ago to stop your career, 5 days after you won the world champion. Why did you decide it so quickly to stop? It was finished in your head?
I achieved my dream. And I completed what I set out to do, which was to become Formula One world champion. So I was complete and I was fulfilled, and it felt like the perfect moment to go into my second life and spend more time with my family, and now take on all these new projects as an entrepreneur, which I really love and I'm very passionate about.
What do you think of this season with Lewis, who won his new world championship? What is his place in the Formula One history?
Of course, I have so much respect, because I can really understand the level at which he's performing, because he was in the same car next to me all those years. And to do it every year and to continue being at that level is incredible, really. So he deserves the results that he's getting. And of course, now he's one of the greatest of all times. Definitely in the top 4, together with Schumacher, Senna, Fangio. So yeah, it's unbelievable, and huge respect.
Many people, I talked with Alain Prost, there is a few months ago, and many people are not really happy with how is the Formula One now with artificial things like DRS, like other thing, or, you know, what do you think about that? It's a race, but it's not really the race to me.
Yeah. Okay, but let's look at the last race that we had in Turkey. It's pure entertainment. I mean, everybody had such a great time watching the race. So Formula One is still fantastic. But of course, there's things that the sport can do to become even better. And that is, on the one side, the entertainment aspect, where we can make the racing even more exciting by making it more unpredictable and by making the overtaking a little bit easier. And here, there's new regulations and new rules coming for 2022. It was supposed to be for next year, but because of Corona and the costs involved, it's been moved to 2022. This is going to be another huge step for the entertainment of the sport. And at the same time, Formula One has to pursue its role as being a vehicle for good, you know, and a vehicle for technological innovation, and for doing and for positioning itself as motorsports for good. This is also the second area where Formula One has to make progress, and they're doing that. And as I said, that I really think they can play such a fundamental role in developing synthetic fuels.
And how do you see the Formula One in 10 years? Do you think the engine will be more electric, or do you think there is a big changement in the Formula One in 10 years?
It's difficult to look ahead so far. One has to say that the hybrid engine solution that they have at the moment is possibly the most efficient powertrain solution in the world, even more efficient on an emission globally than an electric car at the moment. So if they continue to develop this and begin to use 100% synthetic fuels, which are CO2 neutral, then potentially that is still a fantastic solution even in 10 years' time. But it's difficult to say what will happen in 10 years' time, and it's a bit far away.
Thank you very much, Nico Rosberg, to accept my interview.
Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup à tous, à vous qui sont français, qui ont écouté aujourd'hui.